But to start things off with today, a guest that's appeared with us before on the program is Sarah Kaufman, a professional mixed martial artist, and she is also competing in the 135-pound women's bantamweight category. Kaufman was the first Strikeforce women's bantamweight champion, and she is currently ranked number 3 pound-for-pound female MMA fighter in the world, and she is getting ready for a big fight coming up on August the 28th, and we're delighted to have her back in the studio. How do you keep the weight within that ranking?
You know, I think when it comes to fighting, you have to know how much weight you can cut to comfortably make your 135-pound weight limit. And for me, you know, I sit around 155, 158 pounds.
Yeah, sure.
And then coming up into a fight camp, I start to diet down, and I'll get
You got to be careful with that, though, because you don't want to get weak.
Exactly. I know for me that I feel pretty good dieting down to about 147, and then from there I cut about 12 pounds of water to make 135. And
12 pounds of water before you get into the ring?
Well, the day before.
The day before?
So we have a full 24 hours to rehydrate and make sure you get all your electrolytes back to balance.
So as long as you get on that scale and you tip into the weight category, then you can start hitting the water and the electrolytes and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't know that. I thought it was maybe just a couple hours before the fight they check to make sure your weight's right, but they don't do that.
No, it's the full day before, same as boxing.
Yeah.
A lot of wrestling tournaments, they have it the day of, and so you might have like 2 hours.
Jockeys can't do that, though.
No, there's a lot of sports
they got to carry the saddle and go right in there. That's it.
Yeah, and so for us, you know, you have to know how much your body can cut well. Some females, some males cut, 5 to 7 pounds.
Yeah.
Some people cut 15 to 20, which percentage-wise is probably just too high for everyone. But
hockey players and football players will go onto a field at a weight and will come off 12 to 15 pounds lighter with no problem at all, and it's all sweat.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is when you're cutting weight. You're just cutting out the food, cutting out the water, and making sure that when you rehydrate properly. Well,
you're sitting between two guys who would never cut out the food or cut out the liquids at all. I know where these guys go. TJ Mullins in the studio and Kyle Reynolds in the studio. You guys are both mixed martial arts fans, so have a go at Sarah, and let's find out where she's going.
I'm a big Sarah Kaufman fan. I was just watching your last fight. Pretty good. It was against Leslie Smith and for Invicta. You won a split decision, fight of the night. How did it feel to put on such a show?
I love those fights myself. I mean, you always want to have a decisive win. So I wasn't happy that it was a split decision because I truly feel that, through the judges' criteria and just through the fight itself, that I did win, at least 2 out of the 3 rounds. But at the end of the day, you want the fans to be really excited. You want the people watching to be really excited. And you want people to know you for those exciting fights so that when you're getting your sponsorships and you're getting, hype build up for your fight and trying to get the UFC to sign you, you want to have those exciting fights on record, having fight of the night, getting those bonuses as well always helps.
Always nice.
Yeah, but it's, you want the fans to know you for being exciting, not for just winning fights.
I'm not sure locals maybe realize the magnitude of this announcement, but you've now officially signed with the UFC. You have a fight scheduled for August 28th against Sarah McMahon. Are you the first Vancouver Island native to be fighting in the UFC?
There's been one other who was from kind of Duncan-ish, John Alessio,
right? Okay.
Who's made it to the UFC. The first female, of course, and the first athlete, kind of born and raised in Victoria to make it to the big show. And I've been signed for 8 or 10 months, maybe 8, but maybe less, maybe 6 since the first fight was in February. But for the most part, it's a huge deal. I'm really honored to be able to kind of be the first trailblazer for the island, for the most part, who still lives here.
Well, when you started training, did you ever think this was possible? Because we didn't know if women's fighting was going to be included in the UFC. Dana White, the UFC president, always seemed like he wasn't really that interested until, Gina Carano and then Ronda Rousey came around. Did you ever actually believe that this was going to be possible?
When I first started fighting, it wasn't a dream to be in the UFC. It was, I should try this and see how I like it. And from that, I just wanted to improve and get better. And it was always a hope that the UFC would accept females and bring them into the sport. But, Dana White was very clear that he was not going to have any females in the sport. Slowly started to change over the years. And then with so many fights happening, Ronda Rousey, being the latest to make the big splash, and they really like marketing her. It's worked out really well. Strikeforce, they bought out, and now they've pulled us over. So I'm super excited to be able to to be fighting August 28th and finally have a date, and not just know that I'm a UFC fighter, but know what I'm getting in the cage as well.
You'll be on UFC on Fox Sports 1 in the States. I believe it'll be Sportsnet up here in Canada. Do you think fighting on a free television broadcast is going to be any less different than fighting on a pay-per-view?
I think for me as a fighter, every fight is the same. You feel pressure to win. I want to make my team proud. I want to make my coach proud. I want to make myself proud and give myself the best performance I can. But knowing that you're going to reach that big portion of people, and that so many people can across Canada, across North America, and for everyone online can view these fights. It's a huge deal, and it's great for exposure for myself as well as the female athletes that are hoping to make it into the sport as well.
Now, look, I know you got to get out of here because you have to get back to your training. But a quick question before we let you go here: when you win this fight on the 28th of August, what does that mean for you for future fights with this division?
My goal is always to get that title and to be the number one, and that's what I'm going to be aiming for, is to whoever has the title at the time. Ronda is going to be fighting Miesha Tate in a rematch in December. So, depending on what happens, if they give me another fight, I'm just going to keep fighting, keep winning, putting on exciting fights, and, eventually I'm going to get that title.
And it also brings some groceries in the door, too, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay, good to see you again. Listen, great success. And what are you going to do right now? You have to get back to training? You don't know what they're going to be doing with you today?
Yeah, I'm heading off to Zuma to do my MMA training for the night. Okay. So it's up to my coach, Adam. He'll let me know what kind of tortures I have to do tonight.
Great success, and we'll be watching you really closely.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back with you right after we take a break for the news headlines, and we'll